Hello everyone. In this video, I'll show you how you may get more complete results in a search for U.S. published patent applications filed by a company, even if the application does not have the company name on it, by doing a patent assignee search in the IFI claims database. As you'll see, this is because the IFI claims database has an enhancement called the Probable Assignee field. I'll show you some examples of how it works and how it can dramatically increase the number of hits you'll get in a patent assignee search. So let's get started. Since the year 2000, the United States Patent Office has been publishing patent applications, usually about 18 months after they're filed, a step that was already common practice in other countries. Once published, they're available to be searched. These publications have a kind code of USA1, and they're sometimes called pre-grant publications, or PGPs, and you can find them in dialog in any database that covers U.S. patents. However, U.S. published applications very often publish with no assignee listed. Very often they're submitted to the Patent Office in the name of the inventors only, so that when they're published, a patent assignee search on a company's name will not retrieve these published applications. This creates a sizable gap in the retrievals that you can get on a company name search. To help fill this information gap, the database IFI Claims, beginning in the early 2000s, uses an algorithm to determine who is the likely patent assignee, and this information is added to the IFI record in a field called Probable Assignee. IFI's algorithm uses a combination of factors such as the inventor's names and their association with other recent patents, as well as the corresponding attorneys and other available information, and by this method, IFI is able to add probable assignee information to well over 80% of the published applications that actually have no company name on them. In an IFI record, the probable assignee appears in the record as a separate field, but is also part of what you'll retrieve in doing a dialog search in the patent assignee or PA field. With this enhancement, a patent assignee search in IFI Claims using a company name to look for U.S. patent publications is likely to get more hits in IFI Claims than in any other database. To demonstrate, I'll go into 3 patent databases: IFI Claims, INPADOC, and U.S. Patents Full Text. I'll do a search for records where the patent assignee is Monsanto. Now we're talking about an issue that only affects U.S. published applications, and INPADOC covers many countries, so I'll also limit to the kind code USA1 to get only those kinds of records. And there's our total number of hits. Now we can see how many came from each database very easily by using the narrow results by filter for databases. And as you can see, INPADOC and U.S. Patents Full Text each get about 3,700 hits in this search, while IFI gets over 5,000, a pretty big difference. We can get an insight into the reason by looking first only at the IFI claims records, and then using the narrow by patent assignee filter to see the top values in that field. And you see here we got almost 3,000 hits where the patent assignee is listed as unassigned or assigned to individual. And yet, Dialog retrieved these records from IFI by searching for Monsanto. To see why that is, let's look at an example of these almost 3,000 records that IFI provided despite the PGPs being unassigned. Here's one of them, and we'll start by looking at the official record from the USPTO. This is a published patent application for a way to monitor the rumen, or first stomach, of a cow. Here's the inventor's name, and his last name also appears under the document type, which says it's a published patent application, but there is no field here for assignee, and also no field for applicant, and the name Monsanto appears nowhere in this document. If we look next at the record from InpaDoc, you see that their record for this publication simply does not have any assignee field in it at all. And if we look at the record from U.S. Patents Full Text, we see that this database handles it by putting the inventor's name in the assignee field. But again, the name Monsanto is not in here, so our Monsanto search did not retrieve this record. Now let's turn to the IFI claims record. In the assignee field, it says unassigned. It also gives their standardized form of that, which is unassigned or assigned to individual. But here in IFI, there's also a probable assignee field, and in there it says Monsanto. And that's why this record was retrieved when you could not get it by searching on Monsanto anywhere else but IFI claims. Now, this application from 2002 was issued as a granted patent in 2004, with Monsanto as assignee, just as IFI's algorithm had foreseen. And at that point, you could search for the granted patent document in any of the databases that cover U.S. patents, using an assignee search for Monsanto. But patents are often granted years after the PGP was published, so the probable assignee enhancement in IFI is about being able to search for these published applications at the earlier stage, well before they're granted. And you would find this kind of result again and again in other patent assignee searches. For Microsoft, IFI finds over 49,000 PGPs, while InpaDoc and U.S. Patents Full Text get 45,000. For advanced micro devices, IFI gets over 4,000 PGPs, while the other two databases get 2,500. And for Intel, IFI retrieves well over 45,000 PGPs, while the other databases get about 20,000. So what's the takeaway here? Did InpaDoc or U.S. Patents Full Text do a bad job with these patent assignee searches? Not at all. They're both excellent databases, and the results we got from them were totally consistent with the information in the original records at the U.S. Patent Office. The difference we're seeing is because of a value-add feature that IFI Claims has put into its database, and it's up to you to decide which database best suits your purpose. InpaDoc, for example, covers far more countries than just the U.S., and U.S. Patents Full Text has coverage going back to the 1700s, while IFI Claims patents only go back to 1950, which would be important if you're doing historical type research. Both databases also charge less per record than IFI Claims, which may be a factor for you if a lot of records are involved, and if you plan to download them. But if you're focused on U.S. patent publications, and especially if you're interested in the very latest patent activities by a company, or if you want to know what kind of patents they currently have in the pipeline that are not yet granted, then you might want to consider the benefits of using IFI Claims database so that your patent assignee searches will also look for probable assignees. So that's it. If you'd like more information, here are some links to additional resources, and if you have any questions or you need help, feel free to contact the help desk at these numbers or email us at customer@dialog.com. Thanks for using Dialog, and enjoy the rest of your day.